Right. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Right. Okay. What is this on the screen?
Sir, this is 2021 paper, sir. Shall we start from this end or other end, sir?
Okay. Okay. No. No. Right.
Right.
Right. Okay. Wait. I have invited. I asked two of my registrars to join, and
Right.
shall
Okay, sir.
chat with them.
Right. Okay, sir.
How many of you are in the group?
Sir, 53, sir.
53. Okay. Right. Now, when is the exam?
5th of May, sir.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Shan.
Yes, sir.
Oh, you are here.
Correct.
Right. Right. Okay. Now, okay. Kusal will join later. So now they have selected the topics and they want to discuss wha-
So
how
how
we are
do you
going
guys
to.
want it to go? Like, because there's a long list of questions to be discussed. So if you all can prioritize, that will be easier.
Yes, Dr. Shan, shall we discuss from 2021 to downwards like that? Is it okay for you?
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So this risk communication question.
Yes, starting from this communication question, sir.
Actually, I sent that question to Dr. Amanti. She's the one who did the risk communication. So we
Right.
have not
Okay.
received the answer. Ashan, is it okay? Can you answer that question?
Shall we just leave it, because I haven't seen the presentation, the lecture that was done. So I don't know which areas
Yeah,
were
that's the thing.
focused on.
So
Right.
better we will get the inputs from Dr. Amanti.
Or if you guys have the presentation, send it through.
Right.
Then within that framework, because otherwise the answer needs to be like matched into what was taught to you guys. No, otherwise if we add too many practical things that what we did and risk communication during the
Definitely.
last 2 years, that will be too much for the exam. So let's focus on what is essential. Like, so that's how it's going to be today. It's basically going to be focused on
Shall we leave that
four
question?
values. Yeah.
I'll send the
We'll start
comments
from the
from
health
Dr.
promotion month.
Amanti.
It doesn't matter from which year it is. If you get the concept right, you should be able to answer any question. So that should be the idea, right? At the end of the day, that's what Akusal is also joining. So let's get the overall idea about how to approach a question on health promotion and what is expected of you when a question is there on health promotion. So if you get that right, I think you should be able to cover any question, right? So that's the whole idea of the teaching program also. No? So yeah, Kusal, is there anything you want to add?
No, I just joined.
Right. Okay. Okay. So yeah, guys, just go through the questions and pick one for us.
Shall we start from this one? 2020 paper 2.
Okay.
Is anyone going to share the screen or?
Can you see, Dr. Shan? I have shared it in the screen.
Can't see actually.
No.
The others, can you all see?
Yeah, it's there. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Shall I read the question then?
No, give me a second. All right. Yeah, it's there. Right. Okay. Sorry. All right. Kusal, shall I start off?
Yeah, yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Can I get screen control?
I have already given the screen control.
Remote control. No.
No.
To control your screen. Right.
Is it okay now?
Yeah. Okay. All good. Right. Okay. What's the question?
2020.
2020. Healthy settings. The settings-based approach to health promotion. Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Okay, so we'll go step by step. So the question is healthy settings. The settings-based approach to health promotion involves a holistic and multidisciplinary method which integrates action across risk factors. Right.
Yes.
So explain the term healthy settings. So I think
Yes. So
there's no
basically,
definition as such being given on. Yeah.
I went through the answers. So like basically you have started very nicely. So you have given a definition. I think this is the definition used by World Health Organization, right? So when you give a definition like that, perhaps like you can cite the source. And like it's very good to start with the definition itself because it gives a sort of a holistic outlook on the answer. So that's a really good plus point. The thing is like, then you proceed to say that these settings are used to promote health among people in that setup and to gain access to services and bring together an interaction throughout a wider community. So basically, I think it would be better not to narrow it down to gaining access to services. So especially when you answer health promotion questions, trying not to narrow it down to access to services because it's a sort of a top to bottom sort of a health service delivery sort of an approach. Perhaps we would better stick to like the health promotion definition. So a healthy setting is a setting in which people are empowered to take control of the determinants of health and then change it so that their lifestyles are healthier. So something like that would be more holistic than narrowing it down to gaining access to services because that approach is a bit different from the health promotion approach. So yes, it's very good to start off with the definition, but then go on to describe what you mean by healthy. And for that, you can use the health promotion definition. So, I mean, this is definitely not a perfect approach, but what I think it would be, but I think would be easier to do when you get a question like that or any other question in health promotion is to think where you could pick answers from. So, for example, if you think about the definition of health promotion, you could use it in most of the answers. So, to have a sort of a broader picture of the question, broader picture of the context. And then, of course, you can start thinking about the strategies, the key action areas, and principles. So, most of the questions that are regarding health promotion has got something to do with these things. So, for this question, yes, starting with the definition is good. And then you can perhaps use the definition of health promotion to describe what healthy is. And when you are asked to give an example, say like the workplace has been taken as the example, which is quite good. It's quite straightforward. So that's fine. And yes, and this spends majority of their time in the day setting and activities that will directly influence upon the physical, mental, social, and the economic well-being. So before that, you could perhaps add something like the what's said in Ottawa Charter, that the health is created in the settings that we live in, work in, and that sort of a thing can add value to the answer. So basically, and then when you get to the workplace, perhaps you could use the action areas to explain. So a healthy workplace would be a place where the policies are conducive of healthy choices. For example, implementation of a healthy canteen policy. And then there's reorientation of health services to make the healthy choices the easier ones, such as like, say, perhaps annual screening campaigns. And then of course, creating a supportive environment, say, which again would be like, say, facilities for them to like, washroom facilities, for example, like so that people can like cycle to the workplace or do the exercises there, something like that. And then can touch on the personal skills, including health literacy. So there can be education sessions, which is just one thing, remember. So like when you write an answer, try not to make it the most importantly, but just one of the things. And then of course there can be something like health clubs or committees or health promotion, anything like that. So that would be the community action. So again, when you like touch each of these areas, since we are not really sure all the time as to what the exact answer planned for this question is, what exactly is in the marking scheme is, it's better to touch all these major areas so that you don't like say miss out on opportunities to score. So I personally feel that yes, that's a good idea to start with the definition and then explain what you mean by healthy. Like, so for that you can use the health promotion definition, and then we will take the example workplace as an example, and then as to how certain workplace can be a healthy setting, you describe it along the key action areas. How the policies could be conducive, how the reorientation of health services could be conducive, environment could be supportive, how personal skills should be improved, and how community action could be fostered. So I think that would be a good way to answer that question. Right. Any thoughts?
I want to tell something, right?
Yes.
Right now, when you the question again. So they ask explain the term health promotion settings. So if you give only the definition of a setting, you will be getting only 5 marks out of 20. Right? As Kusal mentioned, you have to touch the broad areas of health promotion when you are asked to explain the term health promotion setting. Right? Did you get that point?
So, sir, I think like if we can like look at, so how many minutes do you get to answer one question?
It's 30 minutes.
30 minutes. So for 20 minutes, you have to understand how much you are going to write also, right? Yeah. So that's the other most important part, right? When you say 20 minutes, that's just 20% of the time, right? Yeah. So from 30 minutes, that will be about 5 to 6 minutes. Basically, it will take, say, like 5 minutes, you should go to like, really go through the question. We are talking about 5 minutes. So I don't know whether you can write all this, what you have mentioned here, within 5 minutes. It's good.
Definitely definition should be there. Take an example and explain the definition of health promotion, then the broad action areas, how, and take some example also. Right?
So because you have to read the other questions also. Don't touch the things that are already mentioned in the other ones. Like say, so they're asking for the 5 settings that we are using in Sri Lanka. So repeating that in the first question will not get anything more. Right? So once you go through the question, it's nice to start off with the definition of like, opening one. So people, so on the WHO article itself, I can't remember word to word, but it says something like health is created by people living in settings, right? Where they work, live, love, and play. Right, so that's a nice opening statement. Basically, that opens up, says, okay, this is how the WHO sees it. WHO defines these settings as, so it opens as the discussion saying, okay, people, health is lived and created by people living in settings where they would work, live, love, and play. So that's a nice, opening stance for that. And then say what you have already said, the healthy settings, the settings-based approach to health promotion involved. So you're describing that process. So the definition per se includes more in the other one. So here what you're doing is basically explaining that, okay, it involves a holistic and multidisciplinary approach which integrates action across risk factors. So, but the idea of a setting is you target your health promotion activities to a setting where people do their day-to-day things. And the idea is that rather than, so there are 2 approaches in health promotion. One is the individual based one, right? So usually which we don't do. And the other one is the population based one. So this is more towards the population based one. You have to say, look, we are looking at, there are social determinants of health that affects the that are inbound, like, built into the setting where people are living. So this approach focuses mainly on changing those determinants and empowering the people in the community so that the people living in those communities will automatically become healthier. So something on those lines. So what you have to show during answering this one of these questions is to show that you know what you're talking about. So don't go waste your time and words, because they'll be limited. Right? You might not be able to write so much within 5 minutes. Right? So take the most important parts. So one is health is created, according to the WHO, the health is created by people living in settings where they work, live, love, and play, or whatever. I can't remember word to word, but something like that, right? So in those settings, what we do is basically get a holistic, involve a holistic and multidisciplinary approach, and it try to cut across risk factors so that we try to not target an individual but the society at large. So according to the WHO definition, so the health of the people is decided by so many other factors other than the individual ones. That is unique to that particular setting. So in settings based approach for health promotion, what we try to do is empower the people, mobilize them, and then get them to address these determinants within their setting so that their health will improve. So something like that is very short. You can do it in 5 minutes and it will not take up this much space. So I'm sorry, I'm focusing really on the exam, and I hope we have already given you the knowledge, but this is targeting specifically on how to write that, approach that question. So if I've missed anything,
no.
Yeah, something very concise like that, right? So the other one is quite straightforward. The other part of it, yeah, that's just the 5 settings that are already being used, and in different countries they take different approaches, but this is widely what is being taken, right? So yeah, so here it says outline the main components of a health promotion program in any of the above settings to improve sexual and reproductive health of the working population, right? So right? So more than this, I think we should be discussing more on the health promotion process, right? So the process is quite similar to any intervention that you do, right? So here we have said okay, focus on this area, right? But in health promotion, what you do is you go through a process. So I think you all attended Kusal's class on the proceed model, right? So that's like a fine model to use in this. So you have to say, look, the first thing is that, okay, this is an epidemiological diagnosis. We have figured that, okay, there is a problem with regard to sexual and reproductive health in the working population in the area, but I need to understand how people perceive this question. How do people see this? So I will take my time to do a situation analysis to understand the people's perspective, the social diagnosis of this, and then based on that feedback, I will try to realize how people have seen this question, and then based on that try to develop the based on the behavioral change theories. I will build the theory, then do an environmental diagnosis. What are the environmental factors that are affecting this particular scenario? What are the behavioral factors, right? What is the policy level things? So just go through the list, what to say. Don't waste time, but if you know tuck, these are the things that I should mention, which will get marks for me at the exam. Make sure that you tick off saying okay, I will do an educational diagnosis, a policy diagnosis, an environmental diagnosis, a behavioral diagnosis. Understand the factors that will actually affect this program, and then based on that, I know that my duty will be to advocate, mediate, and enable. Therefore, so if you take an approach like that, you are showing to whoever who's marking that you know what you're talking about, because you can't write an exhaustive answer of how to do an entire health promotion this thing within especially for 30 marks. I don't know whether you can even write for 100 marks, right? A full comprehensive one. So the most important part is that you show that you know the process, right? So most of those things are based on how people take it. So you can't say exactly how you are going to do it, but you can tell the health promotion process of how you are going to do it. Then you say, look, based on these factors, I will start developing an action plan, right? And in that, I will make sure that there is emphasis for an advocacy program at all levels, at the top level, at the middle level, and at the grassroots level. So I will do a stakeholder analysis to identify who should be targeted in each level of advocacy. Then I will identify the different sectors that should come together in this program. And then I will make sure that I will bring those sectors into this program and get their help. Then the capacity building. I will understand who are the vulnerable people and how this communication should take place, right? Whether it should be like it's a reproductive health, whether it is a snowballing technique, whether you should have peer group support or whatever, like show off your knowledge, whatever that you have gained, you have to summarize everything into a nutshell. So might be just spilling over, like it's not a 30 marks one, I'm going beyond that, but show that you know it, right? That you will do a stakeholder analysis, identify who to target in advocacy, who to bring into mediation, and whom to empower and how to empower. So advocate, mediate, enable, right? And then you never forget about monitoring and evaluation, right? The components of health promotion program, like without M&E, there is no health promotion, right? So you say that with all that, you will have indicators developed to monitor the progress and to evaluate the success of this program. And health promotion is never something with a deadline. It's a process. It will keep going on. And I will always monitor for the positives and the negatives and see what is working and what is not working. And then I will go back to the drawing board, discuss it with the people, the stakeholders, go change the plan and keep improving this process. Something like that will show how much you know about the health promotion process, right? So what I taught, like just told you, is the Makkage Katawa, right? Basically, health promotion builds around this story, right? And it works. So if you go out of it, then little difficult to, you know, like, because it's like walking into sea without a map or a compass, right? You don't know where you're heading. It's just so much to write. You will write about one component and forget about everything else. So this is usually the structure that I would use, right? Sir, is there anything that should be changed?
No, that's okay. Kusal, any you
Yes,
went
sir.
through this?
Yes. So yeah, the thing is, like when I see the outline, the question outline the main components, if I'm not sure what components mean here, like it can be the components of the planning process, it could be the components of components in the sense like broad action areas. So it could be either. If I'm not sure what exactly it is, I'll try to make sure that it touches a bit of both. Anyway, like we definitely have to describe the planning process as well. And then we, rather than giving a generic answer, sometimes in some areas, we might have to explain specifically the actions that we are going to do, because we are given very specific area here. So this answer is quite good. So says that the health promotion program to improve sexual and reproductive. So basically, there's no need to specifically mention proceed model and like stick to its steps. It's not necessary. But the important thing is to use it as say a framework so that you don't miss anything. For example, one thing you could do is like, right, first, you have to do a social and epidemiological diagnosis of this. So first comes the situation analysis. And in the situation analysis, one thing you could do is to look for problems in the sexual and reproductive health. So there could be the epidemiological diagnosis and there could be the social diagnosis. And once you know what the pressing problems are, then you go to the next step of the situation analysis, where you identify the factors that are, say, causing these problems. Can be a problem with health literacy, can be a problem with the attitudes, can be a problem with the sort of the environment, including the attitudinal environment. So it can be a problem with the policies. So here you have to then you have to identify these things. After that, you can be a bit more specific. And then of course, like in the policy and administrative diagnosis, we have to identify the stakeholders, which you have mentioned. Now you can be a bit more specific after that. So these can be probable problems related to sexual and reproductive health in a working population. And then you could say that your duty as a health promoter is to stick to the 3 strategies, basically like mediation, enabling, and advocacy. So through these, you are trying to address these problems. In addressing these problems, these are the things that you are going to do. When you mention the things that you are going to do, it's always better to stick to the 5 key action areas and try to mention use them as much as possible. Like if you can mention one in each of the 5 key action areas, it's much better than giving 5 examples that fit into, say, 1 key action area. So kind of a rabbit hole that we might like fall into is like trying to explain the education part, like getting hung up on the education part. Just remember that, but then again, here you have like explain the availability of contraceptives and those things as well, which is quite good. And remember that there's a policy part as well, and then the community actions part. So when it comes, pick 1 or 2 of the probable sexual and reproductive health related problems in the working populations, and then try to give solutions through these 5 key action areas. So try not to give a generic answer. Say, if this is the thing, this can be one way that we change the environment to be supportive of healthy choices. So for example, like making condoms readily available in a certain setting can be a way that you change the environment. And then there can be policy changes. For this issue, we'll try to like make this policy change. So try to give concrete answers for the specific question, like problem that you select. And when you explain about this thing, just make sure that in implementing these changes, you use the 3 strategies at least once in the answer. Make sure that you have, say, mentioned advocacy as a strategy at one point, perhaps mediation as a strategy at one point, and enabling as a strategy at another point, so that you have covered those 3 as well. So I'm just trying to give a very exam-oriented sort of a perspective of this question. That way you have covered the key action areas and covered the key strategies. So that's all about implementation. And then you have to explain, say, the monitoring and evaluation plan, but sometimes saying that we need to have a proper monitoring and evaluation plan would not be sufficient. Just take at least one of the key action areas that you mentioned and give use it as an example and explain how we are going to monitor it and evaluate it. So the monitoring is all about outputs. So like if you are doing improving the health literacy, it could be about the discussions, number of discussions you'll be having with the workers, number of lectures you organize for them or something like that, or even the number of IC material printed or something like that. It's just an output, what you can use for monitoring to see whether things are happening. And the evaluation can be very much proximal or distal. So, I mean, like here in a short period of time, you can't see very distal sort of outcomes, but you might be able to see very proximal ones, such as like there might be an improvement in health literacy in a certain regard. So that's something you could use for evaluation. So rather than saying that there needs to be proper monitoring and evaluation, try to give an example in line with the plan that you suggested as well. So that way your answer is less generic and more specific. So be better since there's a specific area given. And in the end, I see the impact evaluation thing. So remember this jargon changes, like some of these models are taken from sociology. So in there they use the word impact evaluation in a different way. But try to use our sort of health planning jargon. So what I would do is to use our like usual jargon and say monitoring should be done. This can be an indicator I use for monitoring. This is the way I collect information to assess this along this given indicator. and the evaluation would be done at such and such intervals. In a say shorter period of time, I would evaluate using this indicator because it's one of the areas that I targeted. In the long term, I can use these outcome evaluate. I evaluate these outcomes because that's one of the objectives. So try to be specific there as well. Anything to change, sir? Sir?
We'll move on to the next one, no, Kusal? Like, I think we spent enough time with this question. Yeah. So you all want to pick one, pick a question, or like, shall we just randomly pick one? Guys, like it's based on what you want. Did you all get an idea about how to approach it? I know it might be a little confusing because, like, you know, the answers went here and there. Sorry, like I jumped in and gave you the structure, but like, you know, understand that what Kusal said is the correct way. Like, you know, you have to make sure that you give examples and cover it. What I gave is basically the structure, right? So that you don't miss any areas, right? If you don't have time, and if you're somebody like me who can't write fast, so what I usually do is I would just take the small, like, you know, pointers and then straight away go with it. So that's why I gave you the structure, but you definitely need to fill into that structure, right? So Kusal, you want to show something on the screen?
Yeah, that's fine. I was trying to share the screen because like the next question was on a communication model. So the only thing I want to mention is like, yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll ask from Dinishan. Anything you want to comment, Dinishan?
No, sir, it's okay, sir. It's fine, sir.
All
So
right.
anybody has any problem?
Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
It was visible, Kusal, then it suddenly went off.
What is the next question? Right now, what you have to, the important thing is in health promotion, actually you need to know the process of health promotion, right? That is the most important thing, right? And in any question, you know, if you don't touch the process when, you know, if a question is asked about the health promotion planning, so actually the examiners are interested in the process of health promotion.
Exactly.
What is this one? Yes. So basically, the next question was culture could be considered as a factor in enhancing or diminishing the effectiveness of health communication programs. So I don't want to take too much time on this, but when you are answering a question like this, if there's a sort of a diagram in your head, it will make it easier for you to answer. So for example, to imagine where culture comes in a, say, a health communication campaign, I might have to think of something like this. So whenever there's communication, there's a source and then there's a receiver. So source encodes the message and the receiver has to decode the message and understand it. So decoding of a message given happens in a certain context. So this is where culture comes in, because culture provides the context in which a health message is decoded. So in that, of course, things such as upbringing, the values, dispositions, and then the social class, occupation, these things come in. So depending on these things, including education, family background, the politics, religion of a given area, the language used, because I mean, depending on all these areas, the same message can be decoded in different ways. So for that, you could give examples like even in the same area, in certain age groups, different age groups, different health message can be encoded in a different way. So, for example, like if you want to promote physical activity, the way you promote it to a group of 55-year-old women is not the same way you promote it to a group of 15 to 20-year-old women. So it's different. Their aspirations are different. The culture is different. The way they perceive it is different. Their affinities are different. So it's within that culture that they try to decode it. So encoding the message should also happen within this cultural context. So basically, like everything within that context. choosing a channel, choosing a message, choosing how to look for feedback, like everything needs to take into account the culture. So for this question, like better to say like messages are like say decoded or understood within a certain context, and culture provides a context. There are certain things such as the upbringing, the values, dispositions, and age, and everything that this would depend on. So, and then you can give an example as to why a certain message would work in for a certain group, and a certain message would not work for a different group. And then you can discuss why it's important and how it should change the message that you pick, the channels that you pick, and the feedback mechanisms that you're looking for as well. Yes. Anything to add?
I think also like what you showed, like, so anybody who's approaching this question, I think it's worthwhile spending 1 minute. If you have this map that Kusal showed on the screen, like basically not a complicated one, but something that is specific, covering the areas that Kusal, if you can just draw it before you start answering the question, one thing, it will keep you on track. And even if you miss out on some things, if you fail to write some of the things in the answer due to time restraints or whatever, you will still be able to pick up some marks, right? Because you have shown that you know everything. So I don't know, usually how I approach is, I would usually do my mind map first on the paper, which will take about 1 minute to 1.5 minutes. I think, given that it's a 35 marks question, so which comes to roughly about at least 10 minutes, no? Right? So you have 10 minutes, spending even 2 minutes just to jot down that structure shows that you know what you're talking about. You can't fail afterwards. Right, so that like anybody who heartless would actually cut you off, but somebody who wants to get push you through will definitely push you through if you can just start drawing that. So is there anything to add?
No, I think that's okay.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the next one, no? Next part of it. Kusal?
Yeah,
deletion.
I don't
Okay.
have, shall we ask them to pick a question? So
Yeah. Yeah, so shall I just pick? So send me the answers that you have sent. So I pick the first one. So
okay.
It doesn't matter from whether it is like a recent one or whatever, as long as you get the concept. Because definitely we are not going to repeat any of these questions, right? That is guaranteed. Like I don't think sir will anyway repeat. I don't know. Like so far, I from what I know, sir doesn't repeat these questions. So it will be something new. As long as you know the concepts, you will be able to answer. Otherwise, like going through old questions will not support with how and things work, right? So I go through it's a 2011 one, but it's okay, right? Name the international agreement at the first meeting organized by the WHO, right? You all know that, right? The Ottawa Charter, 1986. That's nothing. State the action areas. We have already done that, right? Build healthy public policy, creating supportive environments, developing personal skills, strengthening community action, reorientation of health services. That's like basically asking you to vomit it out, right? And things that you already know. So these are easy ones, right? 30 marks already covered. Like you can straight away, those are like full marks, 30 covered. As a medical officer of health, discuss 2 health promotion interventions you would use to improve the health of the following in your MOH area, right? So the important things is, like as a medical officer of health, discuss 2 health promotion interventions. So they're basically asking 2 interventions, right? You would use to improve the health of the following in your MOH area. So school children. Now it's like a open area. They have said like 2 interventions targeting, like doesn't say for what, like the question that Kusal just covered doesn't say anything. It basically says, okay, for school children, a health promotion intervention. And then the other one, and one more intervention for government industry workers, right? So again, when you want to approach a question like this, so you have to say, look, health promotion, show that you know the definition, because that has not been asked up to now. So you can say basically health promotion means it's a process. So it is not a one-off intervention. So you elaborate on it. It's not a one-off intervention. It's a process of enabling people, right? Whatever your target group, to have more control over and to improve their health, right? So in this instance, my task is to empower, or to give the capacity to the school children so that they can improve their health. So therefore, I will first do a understand, like, okay, what is the population that I'm addressing, and with the support of the stakeholders, right? I will get the stakeholders together. I will try to figure what is the real need in that particular community. So just because you think some intervention is good, you can't just jump in and do that. That is not health promotion, right? So you can't, like, I mean, I don't know in 2011 how they were teaching and like what were their approach, but this will, I mean, on the current day, basically we will expect you to say health promotion is a process, and it's something that you do with the people, and it is done by people for people. It is not something done by you so that people will just follow, right? So remember those things. So it is something done by people for people to improve their health. So therefore, I will understand who are the stakeholders in addressing the school children's problem. Then with their participation, we will figure out what is the most suitable and the most feasible intervention to be done in them. So for example, because they're asking for what is the intervention, for example, if we find that the nutrition is an issue, right, I will look at the school health setting. So my intervention will be a settings-based approach, targeting because it says school children, right, not out of school. So a settings-based approach I will use as my intervention to improve the setting in which the children are spending most of their time. And with the relevant stakeholders, now you can start building on. But what I want you to understand is use that approach, right? So in the first one, if they have asked what is the definition of health promotion, then you're not going to repeat it. But here they have not asked. Therefore, there is an opportunity for you to show health promotion is this. So it is the process of enabling the people. And that is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to straight away jump and pick what I want to do, but I would rather work with them to find out what is their problem, and then work with their capacity improvement, bring in the different stakeholders, do the proper advocacy, and get an intervention. You get an example, like what I said. Like, you can say, look, I mean, for example, if the issue is with a nutritional problem, the best way to approach is to use a settings-based approach for health promotion. So you use that, and then I think you can cover the answer, right? I mean, the rest, it's a waste of time if I'm going to go into detail just telling of each setting. So the garment industry workers, again, the same, right? So you tell, look, again, like just like the previous one, I have to improve their capacity and this thing. So here, for example, you can take something that you have already answered. What was used in Kusal's, like what Kusal previously discussed, a sexual health or a reproductive health problem, which might be an issue in garment workers. So therefore, it needs a very wide approach, and it's a question that so you can target different areas. Now here you can say it's a very personal problem. It's not something that you can like address in a large gathering, right? A lot of people might be having individual issues. So you have to have a blanket approach as well as a very people specific approach where you encourage them to come. So you have to focus more on the services component, so the reproductive services and all. So therefore, if the services are the problem that I mean, so my intervention will focus around reorientation of health services for health promotion. So I will be using a settings-based approach in the garment places, but I will be focusing more in that instance about reorientating the health services to match the need of this particular community. So use the knowledge that you have, right? Twist and turn it and show that you have covering two different. Don't vomit out the same thing that you said for school children in the second answer. Then you're not going to get anything extra. Access to healthy food in the school, right? And so nutrition includes the playtime also, right? How their physical activity and all, cover all that in there. In this one, you talk about a more personal one where you need a blanket approach to do certain things, but you need a personal approach as well. And then for instance, most of the time access to services might be the issue. Then therefore I will target these areas so that you show that you are competent in both areas, right? Sorry, I'm not going through the answers. I'm basically telling you the way to approach these questions, which I think will be more useful, right? But if you have any particular concerns, you can always reach out, right? And then we will discuss this later. List 2 methods you would use to evaluate the effects of health promotion actions discussed in 2.2. So here it says only 10 marks, right? You are not going to elaborate on anything. So one thing is so in an approach like this, right, in our health promotion evaluation, what we spoke about is always use a cocktail of evaluation methods. You don't use one, because you can't evaluate health promotion evaluation. It's not a straightforward, it's very complicated, because actions are decided by people themselves, not by you. So you can't decide everything upfront, but you have to have a flexible plan, but you have to know what are the health promotion outcomes. And then, but here they're asking a simple question. If there's another evaluation question, I will go into detail, but here list 2 methods. So one is I will do focus group discussion to understand. So I will use a qualitative approach to understand the depth of the issue and like how it has improved, like how people perceive the process have worked. So that is very important, that you use a qualitative. The other one, what you have said in the answer is correct. You can say you will use a quantitative method, like a questionnaire, a CAP questionnaire, or whatever that you have used to evaluate the situation. But tell that I will not be limited to this. I will use a multitude of methods, right? Because health promotion is not something that is assessed through one approach. It's usually a triangulation of, even though you use triangulation, it's a multitude of methods to assess, right? Show what you know, right? Even if the question is directing you in one way, always tell, because examiners are experts in health promotion, who's marking this, right? So you show them that, no, I don't agree that just 2 ways are good enough, because this is 2011, right? But I know that it needs a multitude. But you give the answer as well, and you say that I will use more than that to evaluate the outcome of a health promotion activity. Okay.
Okay.
So
Yes.
are there any questions on that? Anything else? Nothing on that here, right? Okay. Let's open another one.
Yeah, Dinishan.
Yes, sir.
When I'm just Dineshan, like anything that you think we should specifically discuss, or
yes,
There is one on the chat box
yeah,
chat box?
the chat box, there's a question.
about the combi.
We
2005.
have finished what is it? Communication for preventing. How to elaborate? What is the question? Right, briefly on combi. My God, how stupid question.
Did you all have a lecture on combi?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So, like, who don't know who did the lecture, no?
So this is in 2005, no? Right. I didn't do that lecture.
So who did the lecture this time?
This time, I think.
Kusal, if you can cover it. Yeah, but like nothing specific to this. But if you, as long as the areas are known, you will be able to cover any question in combi.
Is it a full question or part of it?
A part of it.
Sorry, how many marks you'll be getting?
40 marks.
Okay, then it warrants a good discussion. Kusal, over to you.
Yeah. So it's basically like this. So say like if you are given a certain scenario and you are asked to use combi for the intervention. So basically you can start off by saying what combi is. So a planning framework and implementation method for communication based on behavioral models, the communication and marketing theory and practice to achieve behavioral results. So the important thing to remember here are the 10 steps of combi planning. Stating the overall goal, state the expected specific behavioral results, conduct situational marketing analysis for communication keys, that's smacking, and then present an overall strategy, and present the Combi plan of action. Management, describe the managing implementation of the Combi plan, monitoring, impact assessment, scheduling, and budgeting. So if you touch all these 10 areas, then of course, like you are quite safe. So I mean, like for this, of course, like if the reducing of the incidence of dengue can be taken as the set of, say, an overall goal. But when you pick a specific behavioral result or a behavioral objective, it can be anything. It has to be something very specific. So it can be something like using mosquito repellency, or it can be something like cleaning gutters, can be something like, like proper garbage disposal. Just one thing, you have to pick a very specific behavioral objective. And once you have picked that specific behavioral objective, then you have to do the smacking for it. So when you talk about smacking, you know that there are like basically 3 aspects. You can do smacking for the communication process, the behavioral analysis, and there are ways to look for the communication keys. Just pick one and explain one according to this. Say if you are using MS Graphs, say that you will be doing a situational marketing analysis for communication keys to figure out what the best message would be to go for a communication behavioral change. And then you have to identify who the best source of information should be, who the best sender should be. Should it be someone, a champion who's within the community, an opinion leader in the community, or should it be someone from the health sector? And then you have to pick a channel for the certain thing. Like, would it be through like social media groups such as a WhatsApp group in the community, or should it be through people? And like, should it be through word of mouth in the community? And then you have to know who the exact audience is. Like, say, like, is it the people who are like permanent residents of the area? And like for some dengue, say, interventions, it could be people working in certain construction sites. So depending on the specific behavioral objective you pick, you have to be very specific about these things. Identify a receiver for the given specific behavioral objective and the specific effect that it's going to have. What exactly do you want them to do? So do you want them to clean the gutters? So that's a very specific behavioral objective. And then the feedback, how do you monitor it? And then, of course, the setting where it's going to take place. So whether it's in a community setting and so on and so forth. And then after you do this, you can restate the specific behavioral objectives and then move on to decide the action plan. So the action plan can be an administrative mobilization, or it could be sort of a community mobilization. For example, if it's like clearing gutters, it can be through a sort of a even a Maranadhara Samiti or a Taruna Samiti in an area. So community mobilization. And then it could be through advertising but of course, like if it's in a smaller geographical area, like mass media advertising wouldn't be a good use of it. But if it's like a small area, perhaps something like posters can be. And then personal selling. Personal selling in the sense like if you can use something like the mother support group or the Happy Village to get the message through the volunteers. The point of service promotions, like if you are trying to address indiscriminate, say, dumping of garbage, can be easily a poster put up at a place or something like that. So once you have decided that, then you have to decide on the structure of the management of the implementation plan. Basically, this is the planning process that we use for anything else. So again, like whatever we do, even if it's self-promotion, it's the same planning principles and same planning steps. So explain those planning steps briefly, and then say how we are going to monitor, in the sense, the indicator, how you verify the information, if you are setting a target, how to set up the target, and then how the monitoring is done, by whom, and like at what frequency. And then impact assessment. Again, this is evaluation in different words, like how you are going to evaluate it. It doesn't have to be a very digital evaluation. It can be something like, I mean, like like visiting 25 houses and seeing how many houses have like blocked gutters or something like that for impact assessment. Then for all these things, you have to set up a schedule, and for these activities, there should be a budget. So basically, read up. I think you might have to read up on the different action areas, say about administrative mobilization, say public relations, business partnerships, and when it comes to community mobilization, participatory learning action, and these things. I think it would be better to read up on, because like anyway, like it can help you like decide, come up with an answer. And then about advertising, you might have to read a bit, and then personal selling, especially if there's a question related to say volunteers and like say Happy Village or Mother Support Group. It's better to have read up on that. And like in advertising, you might want to read a bit about social marketing, about the marketing mix and everything. So I'm just giving a very broad picture. Basically, what you have to do here is to stick to the 10 steps of COMBI. Overall goal, bringing down dengue incidents, state expected specific behavioral results, something like people cleaning their gutters or like using a mosquito repellent, one thing, and then conduct a situation market analysis, like what is the best message to get it across, who's the best sender, what is the best channel, and those things. And then present an overall strategy. It doesn't have to be all of those things. You can just pick one or two. Picking one, actually even one would do, but like safer if it's like two. And then present the COMBI plan of action for one of those things. And then describe the planning process, the monitoring, the indicator verification, who it's done by the like the period, and then the evaluation, and then of course creating a Gantt chart and a budget. So basically, these 10 steps. So if it's just like 40 marks, I don't think there's a need to like go into detail about any of those things. As long as all these 10 things are touched, that would be enough. But in case you get a specific question on a specific area, say such as something like social marketing, then of course, like it would be better to have these things studied. But other than that, for this question, like an overall answer touching the 10 steps of COMBI planning process, I think would do.
Okay.
Excuse me, Dr. Kusal, please can you send that document to us, because we are not sure whether we have that document with us. The 10 steps.
The 10 steps.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
We were not
Yeah.
taught about those things, so just
Yeah, because
mentioned about that.
Okay.
yeah, we have
Okay,
done it
sure.
superficially. That's
I
right.
not thought
But
about
don't
this
worry,
one.
if it was not
So
taught
don't worry.
during the class,
yeah.
they will not ask
Yes.
it,
Yes.
right? So
You need to focus on things which you had lectures, right? Don't try
Okay,
to
sir.
now because of the last moment, don't try to learn some other things, right?
Right. Okay. Sir.
So if they didn't cover this combi, so just forget about it, right?
Okay.
Combi is
yeah,
it's another communication. It's a planning model. It's a communication model.
yeah, just understand that everything in health promotion cannot be taught during a train course. So depending on what is being prioritized right now in the system, the lectures will change. So if it was not taught, like probably you will not get it.
I think in
And so yeah, don't
2005.
waste your time. But there's a presentation. It's a nice to know thing. I think Ajit sir has this presentation from done by a foreign, I think like
Yeah,
a
now
trainer
this is
who
long
came.
time ago. This question came
Yeah,
a long time ago in 2005, now 2020, and there are some other models, and people are interested in
different
BCC, then
models. Yeah.
SPCC, right? So you had lectures from Dr. Supun on SPCC, Communication Strategic Plan.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Right. So you need to focus more on that, right? Usually people put questions from what they what they taught you, right? Not that, not something new. So you need to focus more on those lectures.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right. So yeah, one of the
Dr.
questions
Shan,
that
shall we go to 2015 new paper
15.
number 26?
Okay,
Sixth
give me a
question.
second. That's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one because for the simple reason that we just discussed. So this is something. So if you look at it, it says list 5 different approaches that could be used in promoting health at divisional level, right? So this question was set basically based on a chapter that was published by two researchers back in 1998. So this is not something that is endorsed by the WHO or the international body, but whoever who said the paper, who was doing in the training program might have focused on it. But this is not an approach that we are using right now at the Health Promotion Bureau. But then again, it doesn't say that, okay, you can't use this or what, but there are better options right now. So the approaches that we are using, what we have taught will definitely trump over this. So you will not get a question. Definitely, I can guarantee you that, like, the approaches for health promotion, because I'm sure you didn't have a lecture on this. Did you all have a lecture on this?
No.
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 Again, on
That-
2018 also, there's a question like that, 2.1, outline three
Yes.
main approaches.
Right. So that's the thing. So that's why I keep saying, like, okay, like, so what is being used as a tool keeps changing, but you have to understand this is specifically based on a chapter that has come up in 1998 and it is being cited a few times, but this is not the strategy that we are using right now. Right. So therefore, I don't think we should be wasting time discussing this, because it's going to be, I mean, taking you on a this thing where you will not get a question. Right. But shall we, because sir and I discussed this question with sir, and I think sir had the same idea about it. And so what do you think, sir? Should we, like, go through this, or for now?
No
I
need,
don't.
no need.
Yes, it will
because
be a
it's
waste
not
of your time.
Yeah, it's not
Right?
accepted by the WHO.
Yeah,
So,
because this medical approach for health promotion, well, like, health promotion is about empowerment of people, and this is so. But yes, there can be a medical approach, but that is based on reorientation of the services or something like that. So that is just one small area. But in the context that we take as health promotion, we do not use this, right? So we'll skip through this, like, so those two questions. Shall we take the 2014 one? Don't worry about the 15, huh? It's not even worth your time. Right. The 14 one covers a little bit. So we'll move to that. As a medical officer of health, you observe that the prevalence of drug abuse among youth is relatively high in your area. Right. So that's the statement. The question is, define health promotion. Right. So health promotion is the process of enabling people to increase control over their health, or you can say improve control over the determinants of their health and its determinants. And you get to add a part, like, health promotion is the process of enabling people to increase control over their health and its determinants and to improve their health. Right. So have to just because you have control, you can even make it worse. Right. So it is a process of enabling people to have control over their health and the determinants of their health, and thereby improving the health. Right. So that part should also be there. Right. Because you can understand the determinants and then do the wrong thing and deteriorate the health as well. So yes, you have gone the extra distance to mention that, okay, there are 5 key action areas. These are the 5. That's okay, but because it's a 20 marks question, it's a good approach to even mention the 5 key action areas. So it's done. But nobody can say that, okay, yeah, when you ask the definition, there's a clear definition. So even just having the definition, you should get the full marks. Right? Because they're asking only for the definition, right? Describe briefly a theoretical framework which you can adopt in planning a health promotion intervention for this problem. I think that is a straight off question from the proceed, right? So because see, it's about planning an entire program. So you can use several approaches, or you can straight away pick the proceed, right? Which is Like, you can bet the whole thing because it's a 50 marks question, right? Like step by step, you can take the question, and you have enough pointers to get the full 50 marks on this, right? So let's go through it. Like describe briefly a theoretical framework which you could adapt in planning the health promotion event. So you said, like, okay, the theoretical framework that I would use is the proceed model, which is being used for a long time in health, planning and evaluating health promotion activities. I will use that as the framework and develop the health promotion the program on this, right? So we can basically start off with the same story saying there should be a social diagnosis, there should be an epidemiology. So the epidemiological diagnosis is already there, so you can say that you are paying attention. So we have observed that there's a prevalence of drug abuse has gone up, therefore it's based on statistics and epidemiology, because we don't just say මට හිතෙන විදියට හරි අර අල්ලපු ගෙදර කෙනා කිව්වා හරි that is not the approach for an MOH, right? It's based on data and evidence. So the evidence is there. So epidemiological diagnosis already established that there is an issue, but I would like to see the same question, how it affects the people in their own social diagnosis. So what is their own interpretation, and how does it affect the basic roots of health? Like how does it affect the well-being of people? So that's because if you don't address that part of it, right, if you don't see the problem through the lens of the common man or the person who's actually going through the problem, you will not be able to resolve their issue, because you're trying to find an issue for their question using your thinking. That doesn't work. So social diagnosis, epidemiological diagnosis, then you say, like, I would then go for a behavioral diagnosis on, like, understand what are the factors that underlie this problem. So what are the behavioral approaches? Then environmental diagnosis, I can't remember it in step by step, so I'm here and there, but then basically make sure that you cover everything. I'm not looking at a lecture note and giving you the answer. So the environmental diagnosis, what are the environmental factors, what are the things in the system that will make it more prone for people to go into these things. Then the situation analysis includes, so I'm here and there, so like you have to deal with it, right? So the situation analysis, I missed out that part, that you understand the stakeholders and you get everyone on board, right? And then with them you will understand what are the environmental factors, right? What will precipitate them to take up this behavior more, right? So then with that goes into the educational diagnosis. What are the precipitating things, and so what promotes it and what inhibits it. So you try to make sure that whatever that inhibits the behavior, you improve that, and whatever that promotes this behavior in the environment, you try to reduce that as much as possible. So you do an environmental diagnosis, then you do a policy diagnosis to see, okay, what is the law and what is the situation with the law and the enforcement of things with regard to this, right? And what are the services that are currently available, what are the policy decisions that have been taken that will align with what we are going to do. So we will go through what is the current policy on this, and then look at the resources, what are the things in the system that you can use to get support from. And yeah, so go through the entire thing and say, but tell it basically with regard to drug abuse, right? So you will say, like, for example, things like if there are pathways that are if there are abandoned houses, right, that are not being monitored with no owners, that might be an environmental factor which will promote it. And if there are things like that are operating within the area that pushes drugs into the students, so you will identify those factors in the environment, and with the help of the authorities, the law enforcement, you will try to diminish those, like remove these places. So all of this needs to be discussed in that discussion. And so but you say that this is all part of the situation analysis that you're going to do. With that knowledge, you will design the activity plan, what you would do. So you'll say it's based on advocate, mediate, and enable. Those are the three tasks as a health promoter, what I'm supposed to do. So the advocacy should definitely the authorities. So the police you'll have to get, then Lamaha Kanta, I don't know what that is. It's in English, like I don't know, whatever. Like, so that you need to get their support. Then the divisional secretariat office has officers, social services officers, and them you can get their support. Then among the youth, right, that includes the school children. So therefore, the schools are an important part, right? You will get them also on board. So there's a top tier advocacy, and the religious leaders, they have a huge role to play, because you're going to go into an area where there'll be a lot of threats, and you will need the full social support coming in. So advocacy covers the top tier. Then the middle level would be people who are working there, maybe the school teachers, maybe the parents, maybe people in the middle level that you need to get their support. And then the advocacy to the younger generation, you have to look at through their lens, understand how the kids see this problem, right? And then do no harm. Don't go and introduce drugs by trying to say different examples of how the kids are using it, like where the drugs are and all that. So you have to be very specific on how you would approach the lower level advocacy. So you have to be you have to have a clear communication objective. What are you going to communicate? What is the change that you want to see in them? So just like that question that you discussed earlier with Kusal, so you have to have a clear communication objective of doing this advocacy for each group, right? To achieve that, what are the techniques that you're going to use in advocacy to convince them? So it's basically to advocate, right? In a court of law, you have an advocate, right? The lawyer is your advocate, right? So that you represent on behalf of them. So for the greater good of the community, you talk on behalf of the community to get the better deal for the community. So that's advocacy. Then mediation, you will bring in the support, right? There'll be a lot of NGOs, there'll be a lot of private sector organizations that will like to help. Then the government sector, once we already said, so you bring them all together, create a common platform where all can contribute, right? Maybe the UNICEF, maybe the Sarvodaya or whatever that is there. You will say, give examples. I will try to get their support because this is in their area. Children, and right, then addict, right? All these things. I will so advocate, mediate, and then the capacity building part, right? You will understand what are the areas that you need to focus, what are the deficiencies in their knowledge. So based on all that, I will develop the plan, and I will have a multitude of evaluation techniques, including audits, focus group discussions, then qualitative analysis, which could be focus group discussions, then key informant interviews, like all this to understand the thing, and then to monitor the progress as well. And then a proper CAP study or a behavioral study to understand that, and then informal discussions. All of that comes into the evaluation part. So you'll have a multitude of ways of evaluating, but it is health promotion per se is not a one-time thing. Therefore, I will always look for more opportunities to improve this program as we proceed, and then keep on improving the system, right? There you go. But like if you are using the proceed model, make sure that you mention all the steps that are there, right? So because you have to go on those steps, right? So don't miss out on that. Right. So then it says discuss possible challenges in carrying out the above program. So you have to understand where is this question coming from, right? So there are different strategies like in health promotion. I think sir might have covered that, like intersectoral collaboration, like a holistic approach, then multi-sectoral collaboration. Whatever, the words that comes during the whole list. I think it's the I Now book. There's a health promotion guide that we have printed. In that we say we give 10 approaches in to health promotion. So you can just take a few of them. Like there will be lack of empowerment in people. You can say lack of community cohesion. What do you say? Social capital, lack of social capital. Social capital, then if you know it, like it depends on what you know. Social capital is the assets that you have in the community, like not a proper, there's no proper place to meet up and discuss. The knowledge might be less, right? There might be no community leaders in the area, right? So likewise, so lack of social capital, or in lack of intersectoral collaboration, lack of funding, right? People, there might be people with vested interest who might attack your comment. I mean, you can just go wild with your imagination. That's an easy one. Just pick a few and describe it, but remember that it's just 15 marks, right? Don't go to town with it. This is like what you have written. Yes, it's all good, but don't, like, you, for 15 marks you can't write that, right? Always make sure that you write, you cut down the question based on the amount of marks that you are getting. Don't write the same amount that you would write for a 50 marks question for the 15 marks, right? So for that, you pick 3 or 4 good ones, maybe 3, right? Or 5 if you are doing, either it's 3 marks each or it's 5 marks each. I think it should be about 5. You can just elaborate 3, right? So pick it, but make sure you are time sensitive, because the maximum you can get is 15. So there's no point wasting a lot of time on this, right? The next one is as the MOH described briefly. Yes, sir.
Now this question is discuss the possible challenges, right? So when you have been asked to discuss, you have to discuss. Now the answer you have written there, this is just like list. You have listed some possible challenges rather than discussing.
Yes, sir. So that's why, like, I mean, you have, see, if you have picked only 3, then you can explain and describe. I mean, it's not actually sensitive towards the marks. 15 marks to discuss challenges is a bit of a long shot, but then again, if you write only 3, you can quickly describe the 3, right? Rather than listing a whole lot and not ending up not describing any of them. Thank you, sir, for pointing that out.
And the other thing, what now this is MSc level now, so when you write your answers, you have to organize the answer, right? Now this one possible challenges, you can discuss the possible challenges according to the 3 strategies of health promotion. So that then when you write your answer by organizing the thing, then the examiner will be very happy, no? And they tend to give more marks, right? That you need to understand this, right?
Yeah.
So organize the answer. That is very important, rather than just writing, when we ask you to discuss, you just list the possible challenges. Then, this is not the expected answer.
That's brilliant. Like, so see, like what sir said was basically target 3 different areas. So I gave you examples sometimes from the same one, right? With relate to capacity of the people. So you can say lack of capacity of the people, lack of capacity, like, so they are all talking about just enabling factors, problems. But sir said was target the 3 main areas that you are going to target. So state one issue with the empowerment. State one issue with the multi-sectoral collaboration. State one issue with advocacy and the support of the system. So basically like a policy level problem, right? So if you mention 3 things, what I say is, like, you will get, there's a chance that you will get more marks than somebody who's saying 3 problems in just one domain, right? Always try to show off the depth, like the breadth of what you know, right? So, and the most important part, yes, sir.
Now we give this type of questions to the undergraduate people also, and the same question, will be you will also be getting the same question, but the answer, the standard of the standard of your answer should be different, no? We are expecting some standard from you as MSc students, right? So that is more organized. The answer should be a more organized one.
So that's why you need to have a structure for all the questions. Like, don't just start without a plan. That's why I told you, like, if at the onset, put the structure on it. Once you get the structure, it's filling the blanks. So if you are running out of time, you make sure that you add equal amount to all the structure points that you have discussed without spending too much time on one area. Thank you, sir, because for pointing out, like, because it's a discuss, right? So definitely you have to go for 3, not 5, right?
Excuse me, sir. Sir, when we are writing like that, is it all right to divide into subtopics or just by 3 paragraphs? I mean, like.
No, it's okay. Now this is discussed.
Either way, yes.
Right. So you can have 3 paragraphs. That's perfectly all right. But when we ask you to discuss, you need to discuss, not list,
Right.
Yeah.
right? And the important thing is you need to organize your answer, because this is MSc level, not undergraduate level, right? So you just categorize. If you have another way of categorizing your answer, you do it. So then the examiner have some feeling to give more marks.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
So
Right.
we can use the same approach, no, sir? Like the next question comes as describe briefly how you would deal with these challenges.
Yeah,
So
yes.
then it's very easy. What sir said was very easy when you say advocate. So then the answer is also advocacy, right?
Yeah.
So the problem with advocacy, you basically say how you would do advocacy. For the problem with mediation, you basically say how you would do mediation. It's beautiful when you just start. You know what you are going to. You have a plan for everything, and the enabling one. Yeah. Yes, sir. Like if you can edit, like, you know,
That's what we want, right? At the MSc level, we need a organized answer from you, right? Rather than just if we are asked this question from a public health midwife, they will also give some answers, no? But your answer should be a more organized one than their answer. Just think about some way of categorizing and organizing the answer and write it there. Did you get my point? Or hello?
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
Sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Sir.
Yes.
Nice. Okay. I think we have covered quite a lot, right? And I don't know whether we are hitting the saturation point right now.
Some more
Kusal,
questions?
is there anything you want to cover?
No, yes, like we have covered quite a bit, right?
Yeah, I think we have started off, right? But that doesn't mean that, okay, this is all we can discuss, right? Now you have got an idea about it. Now pick, like, rather than going through the whole list of questions, like I said, without having a structure, just structure and see what are the areas that were taught during this time and what are the possible areas. Just come up with a few topics to discuss. If you want, we can do this again, arrange a time slot and we'll go through the specific areas. I think the broad areas have already been covered, but see if there are any things that are missing out, like in health promotion, the lectures that have been done and anything that you have not been covered during today's discussion. But
yeah, so
like the whole
we
idea of
another...
this discussion is to approach the questions, isn't it, sir? Like so what sir wanted to get through is how to approach a question, how to structure the answer, and then fill in the blanks, because fill in the blanks is easy part. That's what you're supposed to learn from the lectures. But to look at the question, then structure it and know how to take it forward, that's the whole communication objective for today's discussion. And I hope it has been covered. If there's an issue, you can inform sir.
Okay. Is it
guys,
okay?
anything that you want to cover?
Yeah. Shall we do the 2018 also, paper number 218? Advocacy.
Advocacy. So what is this question?
Kusal, you want to take it?
Oh, what's the question?
Can you open that question? We haven't got that answer.
All right. Okay.
Actually, it's an advocacy question, right?
Yes.
Is it? I don't know. I don't have that question with me.
No.
Dinesh, I make a question again.
Yeah, no, the other one, 2018 paper number 2. This one might not come in the future, no, because this is
again that question.
Because
you have been
2.2. Yeah, 2.2 might also not be coming because that it's coming from 2.1.
Right. Yeah. The approaches for health.
The approaches should.
No, actually that question is wrong. That is why
that
is what we said, that it's unlikely you get us.
Because that is not an approach that is used by the Health Promotion Bureau right now. So you can, if the lectures have been from Health Promotion Bureau, you can be guaranteed that nobody will be asking about it. We don't use that approach anymore. At least at the HPB, we don't use it. and we go with the, I mean, you don't have to invent anything. Like, what is already available is good enough if you are going to follow it. So trying to develop more approaches on new ways is not reason. Now we need more people to just do what is there rather than trying to figure out new things. Dinesh, I think we can skip that question.
All right. Okay.
Okay then.
Yes. Okay,
So if
sir.
you have some more question,
Yeah.
you tell me, then we'll arrange another session.
All right. Okay, sir. Thank you very much,
Huh?
sir. Right,
Thank
sir.
you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay,
Ashan.
right.
Thank you very much,
Okay, right,
Kushal.
right.
Thank you,
Okay,
guys.
thanks,
Thank you,
Ashan.
sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
If there's
right. So
anything
thanks.
specific, like Dinesh, අපි group එකක් හදලා ඕන නම් දාන්න temporary මේ exam එක වෙනකන් මේ questions මොනවද discuss කරන්න ඕන නම් WhatsApp එකක් හරි.
All right.
Ah,
Okay.
yeah,
ඒතර
yeah,
ඒකට
that's
දැම්මොත් නේද? අපිට පුළුවන් පුළුවන් වෙලාවට උදව් කරන්න පුළුවන්. අපි ඒකෙම organize වෙලා පුළුවන් නම් ආයි session එකක් කරමු.
All right. Okay.
Now,
I will make a group.
remember that
Yes,
what
sir.
is important is, you have to structure the answer and you have to give an organized answer. Your answer should be an organized one, right? Rather than just writing, the things, you will get less marks if your answer is not a organized one. Right?
Okay, guys. Then we'll wrap it up for tonight.
Okay, right. So
Right. Thank you very much,
Thanks,
sir.
Ashan.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you, sir.
Dr. Ashan.
Right. See you,
Dr.
Dinesh.
Kushal. Right. Okay. Bye.